Hello and welcome to issue 10 of my weekly comic video. Got a big pull this week, so let's get going. First up, Birds of Prey number 12. This book ends the, it sort of ends the current, more or less, Poison Ivy arc, though there's still more to be done in it. As an overarching storyline, I guess. It's been a pretty good story thus far. It's actually been a pretty good series thus far. This particular issue, though, we get a change of artist again, which is a little bit of an improvement in my book from the previous artists that we've had in there. Also, it's a little bit designed as a setup for the issue 0, which will come out next month. So it's definitely worth a pickup if you're interested in any of the characters that are in the group. It's worth a pickup if you want to have a clean start to the book. It looks like September, the issue 0s are going to be a good month to start picking up books if you haven't already. So this is one to keep an eye on. Second book this week is the Green Lantern Corps. Now, this book ends the storyline about the war with the Alpha Lanterns and the trial of John Stewart. It's got a lot of action, a lot of faces that you may or may not know. And if you haven't really been following the Lanterns book within the last few years, you probably aren't going to know what the Alpha Lanterns are and all that stuff. However, this particular book does have a very good setup to what's going to be happening in the Green Lantern universe moving forward, and what all the trouble that the Guardians are doing with it. All in all, it is a very good book. I still think it is probably the weakest out of the three main Green Lantern books, but it is a very good setup. Speaking of Green Lanterns, Green Lantern number 12 also came out this week, and it concludes, not really concludes, the whole Indigo, Black Hand kind of overarching story that's been going on in the books. Hasn't been exactly an entertaining route. It is a good book overall, and it's better than the Corpse book, but really it's just hasn't been all that entertaining, and I can't really say so much about the artwork. It's definitely the weakest artwork out of the three books, but it does have some lead in to what is going to be happening with Hal Jordan moving forward, and a potential option that may be on the table, which is kind of interesting in its own route. Again, a lot of it is set up for what's going to happen with the Guardians. I know there's an annual coming out in a couple of weeks that will finish more or less what's going to be happening with the Green Lantern books before we hit the issue 0s next month. So it's kind of disappointing that we have to deal with the issue 0s instead of continuing on with the stories. But overall, things are what they are. So I mean, if you are collecting the books, go for it. If you're only collecting one or two of the Green Lantern books and not all three, I would probably suggest picking up at least the New Guardians and the Corpse, unless something. I mean, I did say the Corpse would be the weakest of the group, and it is, but it has more to do with the Green Lantern universe than this does. This one particularly only has to deal with Hal Jordan, so that may or may not be a turnoff. I mean, there is a reason why the guy was killed a long time ago, but you know, we'll see after the Zero where everything falls. But this may be, although it's probably not the weakest of the three, it probably is going to be one that can be skipped without it really being worth the wait. Next up, Avengers vs. X-Men Round 10 continues the Avenger X-Men storyline, and really it's another pointless book. I may or may not do an actual review of this series just because it's a half-hearted effort. It really ruins the characters. You know, it focuses on the star characters, you know, like Wolverine and Spider-Man, you know, both have a big role to play, although it makes no sense to the overall story arc. So it's just been a horrible story, and no real surprises, no nothing. And I gotta say, if I was an X-Men collector, or if I had been an X-Men collector for years, this really would be a, you know, this definitely is a shot, or a slap in the face, for everything that the X-Men books have been doing for the past years, and the characters in them. You know, they were out of character before the Phoenix stuff came in, and now they're incredibly out of character, and it's really hard to justify the $4 for this main event. So if you haven't been collecting the book, this is definitely not an issue that will convince you otherwise. Nothing surprisingly happens to it in it or anything else like that. And if you have been collecting the book, I mean, I'm sorry, but this has been Marvel's deal for quite a while. A lot of their big summer events just don't really have the same pull as it once did. So definitely one to pass up on, and if you're even slightly curious about this event, at least wait for the trade, or do the digital $99 purchase or whatever online, because it's just not worth even the storage of the comic. Next up, Wonder Woman number 12. And this book continues to be very interesting in the directions that it's taking the characters and the new rebooted universe. This continues the storyline about the whole seeds of Zeus, you know, and Wonder Woman being the daughter of Zeus, and the new daughter from a human, Zola, and the adventures of the actual Greek gods. You know, something that I haven't really known Wonder Woman books to be all that big into in the past couple of years, anyways. But this is definitely a good series to pick up if you do like the Wonder Woman stuff. If you're a Wonder Woman fan, or if you just like the new direction involving a modern take on a lot of the Greek gods. And it does have a very, very good little cliffhanger at the end, which it kind of gets me a little bit more excited about the direction that it's taking than I was even before. I don't want to spoil it for those that haven't read the book yet, but just you know, just a hint of something that Jack Kirby created is coming back into the fold, and it's really starting to meld with the story and the environment, which has been built up in these 12 issues of this Wonder Woman series. Definitely well worth the money to pick up the series. If you haven't, I definitely suggest the trades. It's just been a very, very well-rounded read, and this is coming from someone who hasn't really liked Wonder Woman as a character or as a series, really hardly ever. So there's one good recommendation right there. Next up, The Avengers number 29. Now, this is a complete waste of $4 of a comic. Now, not only is the Avengers versus X-Men nonsense a complete waste of money and time, but all the series that are tied in, which is really strange. Marvel, this was the one series Marvel decided to put the tie-ins in the issues of the other series and not make it a separate little mini-series. But anyway, not only does this book take place 3 issues behind, I think, like Avengers, it happens before Avengers versus X-Men number 7 or something like that, but it is a complete waste of time. Nothing new is shown, nothing new is detailed. It opens completely huge plot holes in what we know happens afterwards, which is standard for these books, and really it is a huge problem when it comes to if I was collecting the Avengers books and really liking it before this is a humongous pain in the butt. And this is not just this Avengers book, but all the Avengers books and the majority of the X-Men books. This is just, it hurts as a collector of the books, because nothing happens, nothing new is done. It's a wasted effort. So if you're collecting the book, I would have to say it's almost worth a run, or ruining a run if you haven't been collecting for a long time. And if you are looking to get into the Avengers, or you just got into the Avengers because of the movies, then please skip these tie-in books. They're not worth it. They're not going to spoil anything for you when you pick it up later on. There's going to be another restart after all this happens. So I would rather suggest that you would spend your money on buying the digital collection of the Avengers books, or some of the old trades from even recent years or back in the day, or whatever, or despite how people may hate it or whatever, at least when the Avengers disassembled and the new Avengers stuff happened, it was actually somewhat of an effort put into the story and how the characters came into it and all of this. It's definitely not worth this money. Picking up these tie-in books, you'll be very disappointed if you're looking for an action-packed or even a halfway decent story. Definitely one to pass up on. Next up, Nightwing number 12, and this sort of ends the overarching short little story about the Republic of Tomorrow, or something like that. The story hasn't been all that great. It's definitely been a bit of a step up than some of the previous stories. It's not as bloody, should I say, as the book has been. There still has been plenty of action and stuff like that. It just hasn't been as bloody, and probably hasn't been as dark as it has been. Which I hope they continue. This issue also sets up the next arc, which is going to be happening with Nightwing after the Origins, and it looks to be like it's going to be something unique, and I'm kind of curious to see where they go with it, and the changes that it will do to the character. So I don't know if you haven't been collecting the book, it's obviously the end of the story. This is probably not the best place to jump onto, and I really don't know if the origin is really that big of a jump onto. If you have been collecting the book for quite a while, or you stopped after the reboot, then the origin one may tell a little bit more about how he became Nightwing in this universe, or after the reboot and stuff like that. It doesn't look like the origin is going to be telling anything about why he stopped being Batman. If that even happened, it doesn't even look like it's going to say if that even happened. But it's just going to be one of those things. I would suggest, though, if you're interested in the character, it looks like it's going to go into a good direction come October. I know that is a bit of a long wait, but it does seem to be a little bit worth it, especially for those that have played, the Batman, Arkham City or whatever games or whatever. You may be a little bit more familiar with what's going on than anything else. So this particular issue could be a skipped issue if you haven't been following the story already. But if you do want to pick it up, it's not a horrible buy. I would just suggest picking up the from issue 10 on, so that you can get the backstory of the current story that's going on. The last book for this week is something that I haven't really covered too much before, Supergirl number 12. Now, I've never really been a fan of the Supergirl series, mainly because it's generally been Superman, but as a female mostly. She would get into the same problems and same solutions, more or less. And I'm talking the pre Infinite Crisis or whatever, whenever she died, series of Supergirl. The post after that, when we got Kara, the new one, or the current one, and the whatever, it had a little bit of an interest in it just because of the evil bent that she always sometimes took, but really, again, she was still the same person as Superman, just as a female, really, and that really didn't do a whole lot for me. I was a little bit more interested in the character when she became more involved with the Justice League, and that was just because I liked the change of the Justice League as it was going on. But really, it wasn't all that exciting of a character, or it wasn't enough for me to start getting the book. Enter the reboot. I've been collecting the books for a bit. I've got the, since it rebooted, I've been collecting them. It hasn't always been on my pull list, but I'm actually kind of liking the direction that they're taking the character a little bit. She's basically just now coming on to Earth from another city or whatever of Krypton. And she doesn't know English yet. She doesn't really know or understand her powers or why she is there or how. And she's not out there trying to be a force for good. She's just trying to be true to herself and helping when able. But really, she's just trying to find answers. And that's where it's been a little bit of an interesting book to pick up, just because it's something different. It's not Superman who just, when we started collecting the books, we knew what he was and how powerful he was and all that other nonsense. This actually gives a little bit of a twist to the character. And she has a few new abilities and stuff like that, which is sort of explained in this book. But the kind of the crunch of this is there hasn't been a whole lot of development in her world, should I say. And that kind of bugs me, because 12 issues in and we're already getting repeat villains and stuff like that. So it's really, I like where they're taking the character, and some of the side characters that are in the books were really cleverly done. Some old faces that we knew before that got revamped after the reboot, and where it's going, like with the World Killers and some of the previous issues, and how her powers are manifesting and stuff like that are very interesting. but it could go downhill pretty fast, pretty soon if things aren't really done straight. And the worst thing of it is the origin stuff. It looks like it's going to answer all the questions for us in one issue, which really, you know, as much as I hate origin stories, just because there's generally nothing new that we haven't known, and they're generally very boring. You know, we've had 12 issues of her trying to figure out what the heck is going on, and in one fall swoop, we're going to get all the answers in one issue. I really hope that's not the case, but from the previews that we got of it, it looks like a lot of what they're building up for is going to be answered all in one book instead of being spread out, and that's really disappointing. It kind of takes away a little bit of the charm of the character, but anyways, the book's been a good book to pick up. It's been entertaining. It's been a fresh idea on the super-esque mythos. You know, it's not Superman who, you know, whatever. It's something new for the type of characters that it's telling, and it's been well worth a read because of it. So, again, if you haven't been picking up the book, it is somewhat of a recommended deal. You can start on issue 12. It's a good place to start. You know, if you want to get the back issues, you wouldn't be totally disappointed. But it's a pretty good jumping on point. I think the origin may not be a very good jumping on point, just because you don't have the build up to it. But anyway, and that will do it for this week in comics. As always, thanks for watching. God bless.